Hello, good afternoon. I hope everyone had a great lunch break. We're excited to kick off this afternoon with Zapbox, mixed reality for the masses. So please join me in welcoming Kirk Ewing, the co-founder of Zappar and the general manager of Zapbox, and Simon Taylor, the co-founder and chief R&D officer of Zappar.
Hey, thank you. Hey everybody, thanks for coming today. Thank you, Lauren. I am Kirk Ewing. I am the co-founder of Zappar and the general manager of Zapbox. Long-time AWE lurker, first-time speaker, so please be very kind to me. The first part of this presentation is also going to be in Scottish, so please try to keep up if that's okay. And the first thing to mention is that 5 lucky people in this room, and there's not that much more than 5 people in the room, will get a chance to win a Zapbox today. So if you'd like to enter the draw, just scan the code on the screens beside you, and we'll announce the winners at the end of the session. So if you leave early, you might be missing out. So it really is my pleasure to talk to you about Zapbox today and how it offers an all-new way to think about mixed reality. It's a hell of a week to launch a new headset. As Kendall Roy says, big shoes, big shoes. And over the last few years, the metaverse, whatever your personal definition of that, has exploded like a vortex of cool technologies spinning towards each other to create these new types of human experiences. And at Zappar, we've always been about visual computing, teaching computers how to see with our world-class detection algorithms, then building out these amazing tools that allow us and others to create incredible XR experiences. So Zapbox is really an extension of the work that we've been doing since 2011, and it's our personal response to the metaverse as we continue to democratize XR. Up soon, we'll be hearing from my very good friend and Zappar Chief R&D Officer, Dr. Simon Taylor, about what happens under the hood of Zapbox and how you can get involved. But for now, I'd like to transport you back to 2014, a happier time when Yahoo was still relevant and Elon Musk was to most people just a fancy perfume that nobody could afford. But it was also the first time that any of us saw Google Cardboard. Now, VR had been around for a while, but Cardboard was something different, a super affordable and accessible entry-level system for VR, designed to just make it easier to access VR content, and it worked. But ultimately, I guess it's just a viewer, and it lacked the interactivity for developers, and we needed something else. In 2015, we got it with the launch of Magic Leap and Microsoft HoloLens. Now, both these systems took an important step in delivering on the mixed reality promise. But let's face it, they were expensive and therefore not very democratic. And that's where we got involved. 2017 and Zapbox version 1. Inspired by Cardboard with the aspiration of Leap, here was low-cost mixed reality powered by your smartphone. It came with controllers and it allowed for the creation of compelling experiences. We like to think of it as magic cheap. But the Cardboard form was also a bit limiting, and you definitely couldn't use it in the bath. So here we are today in 2023, and a lot has happened in that time. Samsung and Google both launched and then subsequently discontinued their mobile-powered headsets. Quest 2 has surpassed 20 million units. Quest Pro launched with color passthrough. Quest 3 is out today. Wow, that's more Quest than Zelda goes. And don't forget the elephant in everybody's room, the mighty Apple. Less than a week to go now. I hope you've all been saving up. So there's lots of players on the pitch, but we still believe that mobile-powered XR has yet to fill its potential. And let's see what you think. Thank you very much. Meet Zapbox version 3. The headset is now an open form plastic construction. It's super lightweight. Hey, I'll pop one on, why not? Super lightweight, comfortable to wear. and a 100-degree field of view, and a universal phone mount to accommodate pretty much any device, as long as that's currently an iPhone 11 and up, and more on that later. We've also added a pair of meaningful Bluetooth-enabled 6-DoF controllers, and these are mapped to the same buttons that you'll find on other systems, allowing for easy porting from those systems onto Zapbox. Zapbox also comes with content, and launching in June is our first Zapbox Originals title, House Party Pool. And we're also delighted today to announce our first third-party partnership with OpenBrush, bringing 3D painting to the platform. And we have a full roadmap of other titles coming soon, including a unique developer showcase that will allow for short-form, more experimental content. So if anyone here thinks that they could bring something to the Zapbox party, please come and see us afterwards. So who's it for? Well, Zapbox is designed for you, for developers, for creators that want to build and view XR content easily. It's also perfect for educators, training, enterprise organizations, with its robust, compliant, and scalable form. It's effectively an entry point for anybody that wants to experience mixed reality. OK, so how much is it? How cheap can it be? Well, say hello to affordable mixed reality for $80. That's right. That's crazy. Well, to find out how we did it, I'd now like to introduce on stage the Lord of Low Latency, the High Priest of Passthrough, and proud father of Zapbox, Dr. Simon Taylor.
Thank you very much, Kirk. Yeah, what an intro. I wasn't allowed to edit that, so sorry about that. Yeah, so Zapbox, as Kirk explained, is the sort of the final step in our journey to making smartphone-based XR to push it as far as we possibly can. And this time around, we're targeting where developers already are. And so Unity is our first developer platform that we're supporting. Unity has a really nice abstraction layer that means you can author content once, and then you can use different provider plugins to be able to build that for all the various XR devices out there. And I'm going to show you just how easy it is to build content for Zapbox with Unity. So this was a screen recording that I made about 2 hours ago as I was still getting all this talk ready. And this is a simple Unity XR interaction toolkit setup. This is all Unity's abstraction layer around XR. This knows nothing about Zapbox yet. You can see in play mode here, I'm using the simulator that's part of Unity's XR toolkit that allows us to check how these interactions are going to work in 6DoF when we've got controllers and all the inputs. So that's a kind of cross-platform experience that I built there with some sample content from Unity. Now we want to make that run on Zapbox. How do we do that? Well, it's really easy. You just open Unity's package manager. You add the Git repository for our XR provider plugin. And if you're on hotel Wi-Fi, you go and have a cup of tea. And after your cup of tea, it's installed. That's great. And then there's just one more thing you need to do to be able to use this and build a project with it, which is tick this little box here. And getting that little box to do this is what we've been working on for the last 4 years. And then do an iOS build. Do you want to see it? Yeah. Should we do it live? Yeah. OK. All right. We're all friends here. So here is an iPhone 12 Pro in our Zapbox headset. Have we switched over the feed, guys? Can you see the screen? Yes. Nice. OK, cool. So this is just iOS. Everyone knows what iOS looks like. This is a preview of what we're going to be saying next Monday. That would be funny if Tim Cook's like, hey, look what we've done. And so this is just iOS. Obviously, we can't control the OS, but we have done quite a lot of tricks to try and get latency as low as possible and to make it feel like a natural XR experience. We've got a private room up the escalators, room 207, and we'd love you to come and try it yourself. But right now, let's have a look at that content that I was just building. And there it is. So you can see on the table here, I've got a marker which is defining the origin of the floor space. which means if we've got multi-users collaborating in the same space, it's really easy to locate them relative to each other. So for kind of in-person multi-user collaboration, we think Zapbox is super interesting, especially given the price point. I'll just whack it on my head. And now you can really see the benefit of the open peripheral. So I can see my hands here directly. I can walk forwards and pick up the controllers. And then when I show the controllers into the camera view, you can see I've got full, now 6-off tracking. And am I got them the wrong way around? Always do that with Quest as well. Cool. And so we've got all of the same inputs as Quest. So we've got the grip switch, which will do that interaction that we were looking at before. And it's fully 6-off. So we've got all of Unity's physics going on in here. Can knock that one over, can chuck it up, and generally have a fun time throwing things around. So super simple to go from that Unity project that's generic and cross-device to something that you're running on an $80 headset using your existing iPhone. Stood up. All right, so that is the live demo. How long have we got? 5 minutes. All right. Do you want to see some more? So let's do this little quick one. So this is my friend Yoshi or Yoshi. How does that pronounce, anyone? Yoshi, thank you. I always play as Yoshi on Mario Kart, but I never know how you actually pronounce it. So just to show kind of how it feels to have a big 3D model here for kind of educational content. And this is the kind of thing you'll be able to do with our OpenBrush port, but with Fire. How awesome is it going to be to write your name in Fire for not very much money? Yeah, there you go. One more thing to show before I head back to the main presentation. And so we've had some questions from people who have tried it around hand tracking, and we think hand tracking is a super interesting additional feature for the Zapbox headset. And I can give you a quick sneak peek of how we've been working on that. And so one of the goals with any sort of XR system is you need everything to be running at the same time. You need to keep your CPU and GPU kind of free for content. And so a lot of the work is trying to get these models efficient enough that we can run them really fast. And you can see there's a little millisecond counter there on the bottom. This is all running on Apple's neural engine as well, using Core ML, so that we're not really using any CPU or GPU to do this hand tracking. And so we're integrating this now into the Zapbox runtime to allow you to have sort of natural hand-based interactions as well. And we think kind of hands and controllers are both important to the future XR ecosystem. The really nice thing about the controllers with Zapbox is they do have the same inputs that you have everywhere else, which means that content porting and content compatibility is sort of built in out of the box. So what are we looking at next on the roadmap? Kind of trying to leverage existing content ecosystems is a big goal for us. So Zapbox at $80 instantly becomes the first, or the most affordable, fully featured, sort of fully tracked way of viewing PC VR. So we're really interested in bringing a PC VR streaming client to Zapbox. So if you have a gaming PC on your home network, but you don't have a headset, you can still check out all of the great content that's out there. Also really interesting for kind of enterprise use cases where you're maybe doing visualizations, really complicated models on a server that's somewhere in your network. And then you can use Zapbox as a client device. And as far as the server is concerned, it's just a device that's got the inputs and that's doing the tracking. And so that same experience you can have on Quest, Quest 2, Quest 3, Quest Pro, or on Zapbox at the much lower price point. Unreal is super interesting to us as well. And Unreal tend to go with OpenXR for their native API. So that's something we'd love to support. As of right now, and it'll be interesting if it changes next week, there's no iOS bindings for OpenXR. Well, there's no metal bindings for OpenXR. So there's no official way at the moment of having an OpenXR runtime on iOS. But definitely Unreal support is definitely on our roadmap and something we're working on. And then finally, we think WebXR is actually really key to how we're going to get these experiences out to people. Because the great thing about WebXR is you build it once and you just publish it to a website. There's no app review required. You don't have to submit all of the app metadata. It's very well suited to more kind of short-form experimental content. And so with a WebXR browser on Zapbox, you'll be able to also experience that content, but without needing to build it, you can use the same content on all of the range of devices that have WebXR browsers. And talking WebXR, the interesting other thing that we're working on at Zappar at the moment is a whole new set of tooling called Mattercraft. And Mattercraft is a whole new way of building 3D content for the web. Connell, who is seated just there, is doing a workshop on it later this afternoon. When's that? 3 p.m. So if you'd like to see what we're up to with Mattercraft, then come up to room 207 at 3 p.m. and Connell will show you all about it. So I think that's it. Hooray. So if you want to win one, if $80 is too much for you, maybe you've had a coffee and a Cobb salad and it's used all your money, then you can still scan the QR code, sign up for a chance to win. Straight after the talk, we'll do the draw, randomly select 5 people, and email the winners to come and pick it up from the room.
Yeah, thanks once again for everyone for coming out today. We believe that Zapbox is the affordable future of mixed computers, mixed reality computing. I do apologize. And with your help, we can make that future a reality. So everyone have a great afternoon, and thanks again for coming. Alrighty.
Any questions? I don't know how questions work. How are we doing questions? We just too quick? OK. Any questions? Oh, I'll just do it. OK, yeah, fine.
So currently, iPhone 11 and above,
Mm-hmm.
any support for Android or other phone for the future?
Yeah, so we, so the question was iOS and Android support. So iPhone 11 and later is where we're kind of recommending today, if people want to buy it today. We did launch this on Kickstarter a few years ago, and we are committed to Android support. The challenge with Android is we're doing quite a lot of low-level things here. So to get the level of latency we want has the potential to be quite device-specific and also OS version-specific on Android. So there's quite a lot of QA to do that. So we'll be targeting the kind of recent Samsung Galaxy series as the kind of officially supported ones. And then it will be a slightly, your mileage may vary on other devices. But the plan is that we'll have a way of printing some of this stuff at home, so you can at least try out what kind of performance you get before you make the purchase. So yeah, later in the year is the Android answer, really. Anyone else?
I'm ready to run. There have to be some questions. This is a very exciting tech. You look like you have a question. Perfect. Oh, there we go. I wore my gym shoes for a reason today. Wait,
if you want to use OpenBrush on it, would that be like a separate application, or?
Yeah, so with the Unity provider, it's you build it as an iOS app. And so yes, OpenBrush will be a separate app on the App Store. We have a plan to have a sort of Zapbox hub app, which would allow you to, which would allow us to link to App Store installs for the other apps, and then once they're installed, to kind of in stereo, in headset mode, switch from an app to another. But that's another kind of slightly future-looking roadmap item. But that's one of the areas where not writing the entire reality OS means that app switching and those kind of things, we have to build on top of what's in the operating system already. But we think there's a way of smoothing those edges. With WebXR, things are more straightforward because it's a single browser app then, which would be the Zapbox browser, and you would either scan QR codes to get to a URL or follow just links on the web to people's suggested WebXR sites, and then they would just download like any other web page. So yeah, WebXR reduces the friction of the app install.
My question is, you showed the hand tracking and stuff like that. So how far along are you in the development of that? And then also, can hand tracking, when it's there, replace the controllers? I'm just thinking in an educational realm versus teaching someone a new thing versus actually using your real hands.
Yes, the hand tracking I showed there was a sort of 2D detection of the hands in the 2D image. We've taken steps beyond that to now be fitting a 3D hand. Because we're supporting devices that don't necessarily have LiDAR, we've only got one camera. We don't know exactly how big your hand is, so there will be a step where you would have to calibrate. So you'd probably put your hand next to the marker. But once you've done that, we'll know the depth of the hand as well. So we have that working. It's the integration of that into the Zapbox runtime, which is still ongoing. It's also, when it comes to Android, because it's relying on Apple's neural engine to be able to be nice and low overhead, it's probably going to be a sort of selected Android device models that have the right hardware to do the same thing that Apple has with the neural engine. But yes, fundamentally, it'll be up to content to choose how they want to use that input. Unity do have a cross-device sort of hand abstraction as well. So we're still exploring exactly how you would build content with it, but yeah, it's up to you. There's also, for those sort of larger scale deployments, there's also the option of doing just a single controller SKU if you don't really care about compatibility with content that needs to.
Quick follow-up question. What's the distance follow-up, like the fall-off range for the hand tracking? So like how far away can you be maximum? And is it only front camera, or is it both?
Oh, no, so it will be on the main ultra-wide camera. So it's good enough to be arm's length. If you it should work for all kind of egocentric motion.
If I were to mount it and not be head, I know in this case it's meant to be head-mounted with the Zapbox, but if I was to mount the camera separately, how far away could I be and still do the tracking?
It's not, I guess it's not a use case we've really optimized for, so I don't know. It definitely works as far as people with longer arms than me would need it to work for Zapbox.
Okay.
Are there any use cases where you could see needing to use a hand and a controller at the same time, like one with a controller and the other with just your hand?
Yeah, somebody else mentioned that to me yesterday. I think there are definitely use cases like that. The nice thing with the controller is you do have more fine sort of input, and we've got because we've got gyroscope and accelerometer in there as well. If you're holding the camera down at your waist and you're looking forward, we can still do orientation-based updates, and you can still use the trigger and the buttons and the thumbstick because that's all Bluetooth. So. Whereas if you've only got hands, you're still kind of doing that. So yeah, there's definitely something interesting in like flicking through menus with just a controller and then doing something here. I think all of these kind of how developers want to use it is a great reason why having something at this kind of affordable price point that has the kind of same range of functionality you get on the higher end standalone devices kind of really encourages that experimentation, I guess.
I think we have time for maybe one more. Okay. I'll let you wrap it up if you want.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming. It was great to show it to you. And yeah, feel free to come up and have a go yourselves in room 207. Thanks a lot.